30, 35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's at the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
And welcome everybody once again to the Undefined Blitz right here on Undefined Radio and undefinedradio.com. Appreciate you guys and gals tuning in as we bring you the aftermath after the chaos that was championship weekend. All right. So there's a lot to talk about. Some of y'all got to talk about it yesterday. We're going to talk about it more today because, believe me, everybody who follows football, and even some of those who don't, have an opinion on how right and how wrong this whole process was when it comes to the Final Four of these playoffs heading into this year. So we're going to talk about that. We got a whole lot to discuss, and so we're going to do it. So it's not going to be like our normal show. We usually run down a lot of the scores, and we'll touch on these here real quick. And then we won't get to the heart of it because really the heart of this is talking about the playoffs and what's coming up next. All right, so let's do that real quick. And, Jason, I'm going to turn it over to you. So we'll go run through these scores. On Friday night, we had Washington beat Oregon in a great football game, by the way.
Fantastic. This was the one game where where Bo Nix had a chance to prove that he belonged in that Heisman discussion.
Yes.
And he kind of collapsed. And look, and a lot of it wasn't even on him. Like the whole sketchy play calling, the quarterback draw on 3rd and 9.
Yeah.
Again, it was dumb. It was so stupid.
Yeah.
I feel like Dan Lanning and his OC and his DC really kind of coached Oregon out of that conference championship win.
It was wild, but and here's the thing too. We talk about you hear us talk about it all the time. Right, as we're going throughout the season and these college games, these teams look really good. These look really great against mediocre teams. But when you have to face those other teams that are tough, you truly find out what your football team is made of. And the competition increases so much that you're used to playing at one level. Now, all of a sudden, when you're just running roughshod over obviously inferior teams, and then you have a team that's on your level, the game becomes a lot harder.
Oh,
and it really tests your play calling, your play making ability. All of that stuff then comes into play.
And this was a very similar score as the first time these two teams met up earlier this season. The first game was 36-33, Washington over Oregon. This time it was 34-31, Washington over Oregon.
Yeah. Washington's had Oregon's number.
That's just the margin of victory for these two teams. It's just that 3-point Washington swing.
All right, so we're going to get to one of the hot topics in the room as we're going through these scores. When you have an undefeated conference champion left out of the playoffs.
Power 5 conference champion.
It's tough. This may not be a Power 5, but Liberty walked all over. Was it New Mexico State?
Well, and they really didn't.
49-35. They were consistent, though. They were consistent. Well, they did, but that was the thing.
Because these two teams were going at it through the first 3 quarters.
But here's the thing about Liberty. They were just consistent throughout the football game.
Oh, yeah.
And I love that. Even into the fourth quarter, they stayed the course.
Yeah,
and were dominant.
Salter stepped up and was playing some big boy football from
he was.
quarterback position.
Look at his numbers. 300 plus yards in the air. 165, what was it? 165 on the ground? Yeah. So that's crazy.
3 total touchdowns there. So huge win for Liberty. This is their first year without Hugh Freeze, and they went undefeated Conference USA champions.
Yep.
And also puts this new wrinkle in, right? Because basically since this whole division of Power 5, Group of 5 has existed, it's basically been the Power 5 conferences and then who's the best team in the American Athletic Conference. That's really what it's been.
Pretty much.
Whether it was Memphis, Navy, UCF, Tulane. But now you look over, and there's Liberty 13-0 coming out of Conference USA.
That's true.
Flexing their guns like, hey, we're the best Power 5 or Group of 5 school.
That's right. Exactly.
So huge shout out to the Liberty Flames. Good to see them step up and
It really was.
And run the table this year. And really interested to see what they're because I'm sure they got a New Year's Six bowl game.
I think they
As
did.
the top group of 5 school, and they're undefeated.
Yeah, I've got the bowl listing pulled up already. I think the ones that have been scheduled so far. So
it'll be
we'll pull
interesting to see how that works out for them. I mean, Tulane did beat USC last year, so
Yep.
It's not like it's unheard of.
Exactly. And then we go into Saturday. You had number 7 Texas beating 18 Oklahoma State 49-21 in a game that wasn't that close.
It really was like
It wasn't even this
Texas
close.
kind of called the dogs off in the second half.
Oh, they did. They didn't do anything in the fourth quarter but just eat clock.
Yeah, they put in Arch Manning
again.
But Quinn Ewers, 452 yards, 4 touchdowns, did have the terrible interception that got ran back to like the 3-yard line.
Yep.
But it was a good game for A.D. Mitchell. It was a good game for Xavier Worthy before he got injured. Good game for J.T. Sanders. Keelan Robinson, here's the thing. That dude is a play, like a massive play waiting to happen. Only 4 carries, 75 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground.
That dude's a beast.
And, he only has 3 touchdown rushes this season.
Yeah.
2 of them were in this game.
That's right. Happy to be
and
a Longhorns fan.
And everyone thought that after Jonathan Brooks went down, I think it was in the TCU game.
Yeah, I was worried.
Everyone was.
I was like, oh, man, what's our fall off going to be?
Nothing.
It hasn't.
Because C.J. Baxter, who was the running back to start the
year,
playing well. Keelan Robinson playing well. And then there was the emergence of Jaden Blue in the final week against Texas Tech.
That's right. Man.
He made big plays all day Saturday against Oklahoma State.
You cannot key in on any one player on this Texas running back guy. It's not.
Not at all. And as soon as you start focusing on that backfield, that's where the receivers are going to burn you.
Because we have arguably one of the greatest tight ends in college football.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's Brock Bowers 1,
yeah.
Jatavian Sanders 2.
Probably. So I would agree with that. That dude is a beast, man, just built like a brick house. You had Alabama beats Georgia 27-24 in a game that saw Georgia go up quick at first, and that was the only control they had in this entire football game.
Once Alabama went up 10-7, it was all Alabama after that.
Exactly.
And what the difference here was Alabama shutting Georgia out in the second quarter.
Yes.
I mean, it's not like Georgia played bad football.
No, they didn't.
They just couldn't do enough. And they tried to make it close there in the fourth quarter. If they could have gotten a stop on Alabama late in that game, then they would have had a chance to either tie it or win it.
And you had Michigan beats Iowa 26-0 because we knew Iowa was going to score, right? We knew 3 points was going to win this football game.
Look,
we figured.
We talked about it last week that I think Michigan, at the time we did the show last week, Michigan was 23-point favorite.
That's right.
And Iowa, their projected over-under per half, by the way, was 0.5 points.
It's so sad.
It's terrible.
It's just awful.
Big news coming out of this game, though. Blake Corum, Michigan running back, 16 carries, 52 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those 2 touchdowns tie him for the all-time Michigan rushing touchdown record.
Hey, there you go, kid.
So if he gets one in the bowl game, or the playoff game, rather, then he will be the new Michigan all-time rushing touchdown leader.
And that'll be in the Rose Bowl, I believe, isn't it? First game's Rose Bowl. Yeah,
Michigan, Alabama.
In the Rose Bowl. There we go. Yeah, Florida State beating Louisville 16-6.
Like, it wasn't pretty. No. But they win, which is what they were supposed to do.
And then you had SMU beating number 22 Tulane 26-14 to win the AAC.
Because they didn't just beat them, man. They kind of bullied them.
Yeah.
SMU bullied Tulane around. This is the first conference championship for SMU in 39 years.
That's wild.
I have never seen SMU ever win a conference championship in my life until this weekend.
But so good for them. So all of that leads us to, after we saw what happened Saturday night, right?
Oh, yeah.
We knew, and we talked about this, how that they were going to have a huge road ahead of them as far as the committee, right, in selecting, because
College football playoff committee.
And you and I talked about this at lunch. We talked about this. Any side of the argument you choose to be on is going to be the right side.
Yeah.
All right, it just is. There's a thousand ways to look at it, and a thousand ways are going to be probably right in this argument. It's so tough. It's hard.
Yeah, I very rarely. I mean, honestly, I never have sympathy for the NCAA and the way that they handle things. Like, I know this is a separate entity from the NCAA, but they are in a position of authority from the NCAA.
Oh, yeah.
They were damned if they did, damned if they didn't.
Well, you know, and
when it came to this, because you could make a legitimate argument for each of these top 5 teams.
Exactly. And you would have been right on there. I mean, and we're about to get into that because, good Lord, it is something different right there for sure. I mean, it really is. We had number 1, Michigan. Number 2 is Washington. Texas comes out at number 3. Alabama at number 4. Florida State 5. Georgia 6. Ohio State 7. Oregon 8. Missouri 9. Penn State 10. Ole Miss 11. Oklahoma 12. LSU 13. Arizona 14. All right, go ahead. Louisville 15. You'll close that door in there. We have Notre Dame at 16, Iowa at 17, NC State at 18, Oregon State at 19, Oklahoma State at 20, Tennessee at 21, Clemson 22, Liberty 23, SMU 24, and Kansas State comes in at 25 to round out the top 25. Wow. So, seeing this, and look, it's a lot. It's a lot. Because here's what I love. Here's the thing. You look at the AP top 25. All right. Which just doesn't matter. All right.
Point, yeah.
But here's the thing. But here's the difference. 1's the same. 2's the same. 3's the same. 4, though, in the AP top 25 is Florida State, followed by Alabama, and then Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, Mizzou, Penn State. So the rest of these are pretty much the same all the way down to Arizona. And then you have a little flip-flopping back and forth here and there all the way down. But wow. So here's the thing with a lot of this, man. As we said, you can pick a side, and you're not going to be wrong. But I was listening to one of the ladies who was in there with them. You know, they have a bunch of people covering as they're arguing back and forth, and she was talking about. She said, you know, the misconception is the fact that they just wanted an SEC school in there. She said, you should have seen how much they were arguing back and forth, all the stuff and not arguing just like, well, just the sympathy, the trying to make sure they had it right, looking at it from every angle. She said there was not a proud person in there going, ha, 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 patting ourselves on the back. It was like they knew that this was going to be hard in so many ways with the way this is set up. I mean, there was no winning here. I mean, but they also knew that it was on them to get the best 5. That's how they thought about it. That's how they finally, because she said they took so many votes trying to figure out. They knew 1 through 3.
I figured they just knew 1 and 2.
No, they knew 1 through 3. It was that 4th spot. The 4th spot was the hard spot. They knew 1 through 3 because Texas is how they played was in at number 3.
Yeah,
how they played all season, they were in at number 3.
Texas finished their last 2 games. So
the
Big 12 title game against Oklahoma State, and then it was Texas Tech in the last week of the regular season. Texas won those 2 games by a combined score of 106-28.
Exactly. They were impressive. So they knew Texas was in. So they knew the first 3, but they just didn't know about 4. 4 was the hard one because of all the arguments we're about to talk about. Because of all the ones you've seen online, every one of those arguments were taken into account and then rehashed again. So it wasn't like they were flippant with the decision. You know, like a lot of conspiracies out there, they just had to have an SEC. They had to have Bama. That's not really true. And
well, it's kind of true.
Well, no, but it's not though. But it's really not. It's more along the lines of this is what they came up with.
I'll put it this way: the college football playoff has never not had an SEC team.
No, doubt it.
And it's also the only conference that they've ever had 2 teams from.
And
they've done that multiple times.
That's because the SEC is just strong. They just are.
It's not this year.
It wasn't this year. But still, even if the rest of the SEC wasn't strong, the top 2 teams were.
Because, you know, the SEC gets a lot of automatic bids to bowl games.
Yes, they do.
They did not have enough teams to fill those obligations.
which is good.
So, like, you look at the Liberty Bowl. The Liberty Bowl is always an SEC team versus a Big 12 team.
Mm-hmm. Not this year.
They did not have the SEC team to fill it, so it's the University of Memphis playing at home at the Liberty Bowl against Iowa State.
And there you go. But I think, but you're still your top two teams in the SEC are mega schools. I mean, we knew going into the Bama Georgia game, whoever, if you win, you're in.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you.
There was very little question that was going to happen.
Like, and I 100% believe that if Florida State had gotten in, they would get waxed by Michigan.
And there's no question.
I'm not arguing that.
Yeah, exactly.
My thing is,
that's what most people aren't arguing.
Alabama took it on the shins against Texas.
Yes.
In their own backyard.
Yes.
In Bryant-Denny Stadium.
Yep.
At night, in front of 100,000 inbreds.
That's right.
Down there in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And Texas put it on them. Now, Texas did struggle at one point, led Alabama back into the game, and then pulled away from them again and beat them by double digits.
Exactly.
On their home field. Now, Texas's loss was to Oklahoma at a neutral site, whereas half Oklahoma fans, half Texas fans.
Yep.
But they lost by less than a touchdown.
In a final minute.
In the final minute or seconds of the game. Florida State, the only loss they had was Jordan Travis.
That was it.
Who's not a team.
But it turns out that Jordan Travis, to the committee, is the team. Well, that's not true. Florida State's got a great defense.
And they have a tremendous defense.
However, we've seen without Jordan Travis, their offense is very lackluster and very mediocre.
Yeah. Roadmaker doesn't know exactly what he's doing.
But but to that point, Jordan Travis is a special talent. This kid is a Heisman candidate. Was. And still is in the Heisman running. But
here's the thing, too. Just because the quarterback's not good doesn't mean the rest of that offense is bad.
No, it doesn't.
Because Keon Coleman's one of the best wide receivers in the entire country.
Yeah, but if your quarterback can't give him the football and doesn't know where to go with the football, it doesn't matter.
But you telling me that this kid with a month to prepare
couldn't be better?
Yeah,
oh, he could.
He's not going to get wear and tear because he's not going to get hit because he's a quarterback.
Yep.
Like a month for that Florida State team to get right leading into a playoff game, I think they can make it competitive.
The problem is that they don't want to take the chance on maybe he can and maybe he can't. That was real, and I think that was one of the deciding factors too.
Well, and I think that an argument can also be made because you remember a couple years ago, I guess it was 2 years ago, 3 years ago now. It was 2 years ago because that's when Georgia won their first national title. I sat here and I beat the drum all year for Cincinnati, who was still in that American Athletic Conference. They were It's like they went and they beat Notre Dame in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They had another win. I think it was against Tulane. Tulane was ranked, and they beat Tulane. I think in New Orleans.
Correct.
In that game, and then people were like, "Well, Cincinnati shouldn't be in." Like we all know that Cincinnati's not good. Do you though? Do you know that Cincinnati's not that good? And then they get into the college football playoff. Because they went undefeated.
Yes.
Went undefeated, won the conference championship. It's like they've done what they're supposed to do. They've done it.
Yep.
And then they got waxed in the first round.
Exactly.
I think the talent on a Florida State team significantly better than the talent on that Cincinnati team, even though they had Desmond Ridder and Sauce Gardner.
I think it is.
I think a Florida State team in the playoff would have been more, even with the backup quarterback, more competitive than that Cincinnati team. And here's the thing, too. You can't just knock Florida State because they have a backup quarterback. The first ever college football playoff national champions.
Yes.
The Ohio State University.
Yes.
Won the national championship, beating Alabama, beating Oregon with their Heisman Memorial Trophy winner, Marcus. What's his last name? I forget now. Because he has Mariota.
Marcus Mariota.
Beat him. They were on their third string quarterback.
That's right. They were.
Braxton Miller went down before the season. J.T. Barrett went down in the season. And then Cardell Jones came in.
Yep.
And they won the national championship.
Yep. But I think also the difference there too, though, is you had two dominant teams that year.
Ohio State was 4 seed
versus
other
teams, and I think
Oregon was dominant.
They had way more consistency.
Was blistering that year.
I just never believe in Oregon. They all look pretty during the season, and then melt down in bowl games and then championship games. I've never believed in Oregon. But again, that's the whole thing too with the whole rest of this.
But Ohio State went into that playoff and beat up Alabama.
Yeah.
And then beat up Oregon.
But this is a whole thing about the outliers. They weren't going to take a chance on Florida State being another Cincinnati without Travis Jordan. Well, here's the thing. Because here's the other thing, too. If Travis Jordan was healthy, they waxed Iowa by 50, maybe 45, 50, I think, easy.
Oh, yeah.
Even with that defense, it wouldn't have stopped Florida State at all. And none of these, we probably wouldn't have a conversation about the 4th spot would have been for sure. I think the 4th spot would have come down to Texas or Alabama.
Yeah, I think so too.
It wouldn't have come down to a Florida State here or there. It would have come down, all right, it's Texas or Bama.
Yeah, Florida State would have been firmly entrenched as the
Oh, yeah, easily. If not the second team, they may have been number 2 overall, I believe.
I mean, they've kind of been going back and forth. Like,
yeah.
Florida State and Washington have been going back and forth over positioning all year.
And I think probably would have been Washington because they had the better win.
Yeah, I mean, they beat them twice.
So.
But Oregon, in all fairness, should have never been ranked as high as they were.
I agree, too. I really agree with that.
Because they beat up some teams that we all thought were going to be good in the Pac-12, and all of them really turned out to be pretty bad.
Yep. Now let's talk about how that Auburn victory really helped Bama, because if Bama loses that, Bama loses to Auburn the week before. Then they win. Then they beat Georgia. Florida State's in.
Oh, for sure.
Florida State's in, right? So Auburn, you're the problem.
Because you can't have a 2-loss conference champion.
No.
In over a undefeated.
That's right. The only thing that saved them from putting Bama in there was them beating Auburn in that miracle 4th and 31. 100%. That's it. That is it. And really, that's where this whole conversation started, because you could feel it last week. It's like, because that's what we started talking about. Well, damn, now Bama goes in and beats Georgia. We're going to remember 4th and 31.
Oh, forever.
Because it now helped them get to the playoffs. Because without that, they lose to Auburn, that's it. I don't care if they beat Georgia. It wasn't a win in the end game. If Bama would have beat Georgia, great. They just ruined Georgia's chances. That's it. That's what would have happened.
Oh,
Georgia would have been out. Because Alabama then would have been ranked lower anyway. And still going to be. So it really starts back at Auburn. And it's a crazy thing, but we've been rooting for chaos all season.
And
we have been waiting on chaos.
We got it.
We got it in spades.
We talked about how this stuff would sort itself out, and it actually didn't.
No, it didn't.
It didn't sort itself out.
But this has been the most contested collegiate season, football season we've had.
Yeah, this is the deepest the top 11, 12 teams have probably ever been, where you can make an argument that any of these teams could beat any of the other teams at any given time.
So let me throw a little more juice out there, because I love all this stuff and it's fun. And I love seeing the arguments back and forth because it tickles the hell out of me. It's hilarious. So this year was supposed to have been the first expanded playoffs.
Right.
Before 3 of the conferences decided, no, we don't want to do it this year. We're going to push it back. Let's just push it back. Who was one of those conferences and one of the loudest schools shouting that?
Florida State.
Florida State. And so now, again, they couldn't have foreseen this.
Yeah. And also, in all fairness, Florida State's been kind of talking about, and this goes back to this past summer, they want out of the ACC because they don't agree with the way ACC is trying to do things.
That's right. So there's so much, and that's what we were talking about at the beginning of this. You can pick a side here and not be wrong. I mean, it is one of those things. We used to argue this about 1 and 2. All right, when 1 and 2, when we finally got the 1 and 2 would play each other, because for the longest time it wasn't even like that.
Right.
So college football keeps evolving. I would hear people talk about, well, it's the death of college football. No, it's not. College football is more popular than ever, and it's still growing in popularity.
It always will be popular because college football is a regional sport.
That's right.
In the sense of typically a person's favorite college football team is going to be somewhere close to where they live.
That's right, or at least grew up.
Yeah.
It's that area.
Because there aren't enough NFL teams.
Yes, exactly.
Or MLB teams.
But there's a college in every region that you can fall behind. And that's what makes college sports great. So, look, what this is going to do is put more hype on the expanded playoffs next season. Because we're not going backwards, I think, from disparity in talent anymore. If anything, we're getting more parity in the talent.
Oh, absolutely. We've
seen that. And with the NIL situation, we're going to keep seeing that.
Now, I have the what the expanded playoff would look like for this season.
If it would have been into play in this season?
Yes, if you want to get into
let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about it. We got to talk about that.
All right. So, this is what the 12-team college football playoff would look like if it was going on this year. So, of course, Michigan, Washington, Texas, and Alabama get buys.
Yeah.
Michigan and Alabama are in the same bracket.
Mm-hmm.
Washington, Texas in the same bracket.
Gotcha.
So it would be number 8 Oregon versus number 9 Missouri. The winner takes on Michigan. It would be number 5 Florida State versus number 12 Liberty, who would then take on Alabama. The reason Liberty is number 12 is because the way this is going to work is they're going to take the top 11 Power 5 schools and the single best group of 5 school.
Yep.
And they will put them in there. Now, if that group of 5 school ends the year ranked number 8, then they're going to be number 8. They're not.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to drop out.
12.
Yeah.
So, winner Florida State Liberty would take on Bama. Now, on the other side of the bracket, number 7 Ohio State would play number 10 Penn State, with the winner advancing to take on Washington. And number 6 Georgia would play number 11 Ole Miss, with the winner advancing to take on Texas.
Oof. That'd be awesome.
So the quarterfinal could – I'm just going to pick winners here. I'm going to play this around. So we would see in the second round of the playoff, Oregon, Michigan.
Yeah.
Could be a fun game. We would see Florida State, Alabama. Well, I don't know. With this injury, maybe Liberty wins.
I mean, it could be with who they've got over there.
So let's say Liberty wins, just to have fun.
Just have fun with it.
Then you
Poor
got
Florida
Liberty
State.
at Alabama.
That's right. That's a massacre.
Then you got Ohio State, Washington.
Oof.
And then you got Georgia, Texas.
Oof. That'd be good too.
But because of how good Georgia is,
yeah,
there's a good chance Georgia makes it to at least the semifinal.
That's right.
If not, the actual championship game, because I think Georgia's better than both Washington and Ohio State.
Yep. This is what I love about Texas football. It's built SEC style.
Well, that's good for them, because that's where they're going.
So I had somebody tell me the other day, right? He said, yeah, but you know what the difference is? They don't play defense in the Big 12. I said, that's not true. Texas is built SEC style.
Texas has held every single team they've played this season to 85 yards rushing or less.
That's right. Just boom.
Fun facts.
Just boom. Don't be a hater all day. They just rolled over Georgia. Alabama didn't roll over Georgia.
They beat them by 3.
They beat them. They beat them by 3. That's not rolling over anybody.
Texas rolled over Alabama.
That's right. That's the roll.
That's the thing that happened.
That's right. That's getting – some people might call that a stampede. I probably would. But that's just me. That's just me.
But also, yeah, screw Alabama. I'm
and there's that too. And there's that too. And there's that.
I acknowledge that they're good, but I don't like them.
Yeah.
I'm never going to like them.
I haven't talked to my brother-in-law yet about this. I got to call him up, see what he thinks about it, because I can't wait to get his opinion, because you know how David is.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. But, yeah, we knew this was coming, man. So, the bowl games, your New Year's Six bowls.
Oh, and don't forget, this Saturday, we got Army, Navy.
Yes, we do. Finish out the regular season.
Both teams are 5-6. Winner's going bowling. So this rivalry game actually has even higher stakes.
Which is nice. It's about time it does.
Army, 2.5-point favorites in Foxborough at Gillette Stadium.
Hell yeah. Let's go. So, let's talk about these games starting January 1st. At the Rely Quest Bowl, you got the Badgers and the Tigers, LSU, that is, who finished the season 9-3. You got Liberty Flames taking on the Oregon Ducks. In the Fiesta Bowl. This is a huge bowl for Liberty.
You know what?
This is great big.
I didn't realize it was no longer the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. It's the Verbo Fiesta Bowl now.
We've got the Citrus Bowl, Iowa Hawkeyes taking on Tennessee Vols. We've got, of course, the Rose Bowl on the first is Alabama and Michigan. Sugar Bowl is Texas and Washington. That is going to be wild.
But, I mean, you can't even forget, look back onto the
Saturday?
The 30th, yeah.
Look at that. You got Ole Miss, Penn State. That's going to be a hell of a game.
At the Peach Bowl, Penn State, currently 4.5-point favorites. You've got Georgia and Florida State.
Oh, yeah.
Georgia 14.5-point favorites in the Orange Bowl. That's significant. You never see a line that big in a major bowl game.
That's the Travis Jordan effect.
Yeah.
And again, why? You see that betting line? Exactly why Florida's out of the playoffs right now. And fair or not, that's the reason. That's the sole reason.
And, of course, the Friday, the day before, number 9, Missouri, number 7, Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl, where Ohio State's 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another fun game here on the 28th. Arizona, number 14 Arizona, number 12 Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl, where Arizona's 3.5-point favorites.
Ooh. I'm saying a thing. We need to have a pick'em. We need to have a pick'em edition of this show.
I feel like Louisville kind of got hosed, man. So, they lost to Florida State.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost to Kentucky the week before, and then they turned around and lost to Florida State. So they're 10-3. They fall to number 15. They're playing USC in the DirecTV Holiday Bowl.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams has already announced he is not playing in that game. And people are like, well, why is he not playing? Oh, well, obviously he's making a decision whether or not to come back or go to the NFL. No, if you're sitting out the bowl game,
you're going to the NFL.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Louisville's going to roll the Trojans in San Diego at Petco Park.
I agree.
Which is a lovely stadium for those of you who've never been.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I think we're going to do a pick'em show. I think we're going to do a pick'em show.
Oh, we're going to have to.
We need to figure out how best to do that.
Well, we print them out, and we talk about them, and we pick them.
So, but I want to get the fans involved. I want to get the community involved. I need to figure out the best way to do that.
We might have to do a special time, like a later in the evening once everybody's off work.
That's right. And really throw it down and do something cool with it.
We'll do a fan pick 'em.
I think we should.
Let the fans pick majority rules.
We'll each pick ours too, and then we'll go through the whole deal and see what we get right and what we don't. Barry said Bo Nix might not play at Oregon. Was the latest word on that.
Well, he is a 64-year-old quarterback.
So this is true.
He should probably just go ahead and go to the NFL.
This is true. All right, let me run these ads real quick.
1 second before we get away from college football. Other big news: Oklahoma Sooner star quarterback Dylan Gabriel has entered the transfer portal. Ohio State Buckeyes starting quarterback Kyle McCord also in the transfer portal. Of course, the aforementioned Caleb Williams is sitting out USC's bowl game. Houston Cougars have they fired Dana Holgerson, and what they did was turn around and signed 63-year-old coach Willie Fritz. And Willie Fritz has been in the group of 5 schools. He's one of the biggest all-time junior college coaches over at Blinn Junior College. But he is now at the University of Houston, where he has spent the last 8 seasons, including this year, at Tulane, building that Green Wave program.
Oof. Uh-oh.
So Willie Fritz getting a big boy job in the Big 12.
Good for him.
Of course, we've talked about Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama all reaching the CFP. And, of course, Mike Norvell, the head coach of Florida State, the AD at Florida State fans, large part of the country, are absolutely disgusted and infuriated that the 13-0 ACC champion Seminoles got snubbed by the CFP committee.
That's correct. All right, we're going to roll over these commercials. Got some bills to pay. We come back. Got a lot more to talk about. Hang with us. Having trouble finding the right insurance for you? Tired of corporate insurance companies whose only concern is padding the bottom line? Story Insurance has been serving the local and surrounding communities in Mississippi and Tennessee for over 20 years. Need auto, home, life, farm, or business coverage? Richard Story can help you find the right insurance to match your needs for the best rates. Call 662-560-7021 or visit his office at 5234 Highway 51 North in Senatobia, Mississippi. Story Insurance. We've got you covered. Want to sculpt your body but not have to do invasive surgery or gimmick medications? Cockrell Family Medical Center in Senatobia, Mississippi brings you ImSculpt, the first of its kind. It's considered a breakthrough in non-invasive body shaping. This revolutionary procedure simultaneously delivers heat and magnetic energy, resulting in more fat reduction and more muscle growth. Suffering from incontinence and just want an overall better quality of life? Cockrell Family Medical Center can help you there as well. Call us today at 662-301-1128 or come by the clinic at 120 North Fleet Drive in Senatobia. Cockrell Family Medical Center. We're here for your health.
Time to have the body you've always wanted. With more than 30 years of experience, certified personal trainer Connie Burton will get you into the best shape of your life. Using strength training, endurance, cardio, extreme boxing, and more, whatever your goal, Connie Burton will bring out the best in you. From ages 5 to 95, you're never too young or too old to get fit. Located at 126 North Front Street in Senatobia, Mississippi, call 662-560-6538 to set up your appointment. Fitness 2000, your future starts today.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy, the lowlife Deacon Pierce from Crossroads Wrestling, here to remind you all that Saturday, December 16th in Coldwater, Mississippi, Crossroads Wrestling will present Holiday Havoc. Come on out. It's a toy drive. If you bring in a toy, that's $2 off of an adult price ticket. Kids 4 and under get in free. It's going to be happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, and most importantly, season's beatings. And if I catch any of you kids out there booing Deacon Pierce, your season's beatings will be coming early.
And welcome back to Undefined Blitz right here on Undefined Radio and UndefinedRadio.com. Appreciate you guys tuning in as we roll through this Monday talking about football and all the happenings right there around college and NFL. Speaking of NFL, we got to flip on over to that because we might have had a couple games yesterday that did not end the way some folks wanted them to end.
Oh, yeah. Without question.
One thing's for sure, the NFC East has not had a good time against the San Francisco 49ers this season.
No, they have not.
Right? It has not been pretty. The Eagles found that out last night as they fell to the 49ers. Good Lord, dude. This was
42-19.
It was, yeah, believe me, Cowboys fans feel your pain.
Brock Purdy, 314 yards, 4 touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey, 17 carries, 93 yards, touchdown. Deebo Samuel, 4 receptions, 116 yards, 2 receiving touchdowns. I think he also had a rushing touchdown.
That's right. This all started on Thursday night. We had the Cowboys beating the Seahawks 41-35 in a fun game. Unless you're a Cowboy fan trying not to have a heart attack.
Yeah, but, they pulled it out.
They did pull it out.
Massive game for DK Metcalf, though. 6 catches, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns.
He was on a roll.
He was bullying Deron Bland.
He was.
Dak Prescott.
That first half was not good for Bland.
Well, it wasn't good for the whole defense.
No, the whole defense got burnt.
Dak Prescott really carried the Dallas Cowboys through that game. Now, Deron Bland did end up adding an interception.
Yeah.
He almost had another one.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it came down to, can the Cowboys get a stop? Can either defense get a stop, actually, is what it came down to. Because there were no punts in this game. The Cowboys went for it on 4th down. The Seahawks went for it on 4th down. And in that 4th quarter, the Cowboys defense did stop the Seattle Seahawks on 3 straight 4th down attempts.
Yes, they did.
Of course, the most important one being the last one where Micah Parsons comes off the edge unblocked and comes right at Geno Smith, and Geno Smith just throws the ball in the dirt.
Yeah, and then Sunday we had the Colts versus the Titans. Colts beat the Titans 31-28 in OT.
You know what the most impressive play from this game was?
What's that?
Was Will Levis throwing a disgusting interception into triple coverage.
Yeah.
The DB picks off the ball and he slips down to the ground. And as he goes to get up, Will Levis, as soon as he let the ball go, he knew it was getting intercepted.
Yeah.
Will Levis, put it in a new gear, rushes down the field. As that DB goes to get up, Will Levis crushes him and knocks the ball loose and recovers the fumble. First down Titans.
That's crazy.
Greatest play of the game.
That's crazy. I hadn't seen that. I missed that. I missed that play. I got to go back and look for it. Yeah, the Chargers beating the Patriots in a high-scoring affair, 6-0.
The Patriots are terrible, man.
Yes.
They get shut out. They do have a top 10 defense. Don't get me wrong. I think they're like 9th in total defense. But their offense is anemic. They're getting no results from the quarterback spot. But why are the Chargers 5-7? I can't figure this out. They've got on defense. I know Joey Bosa's hurt right now, but Khalil Mack has kind of turned the clock back this year. You've got Derwin James. You got a pretty solid linebacker group. Sante Samuel Jr. On offense, you got Justin Herbert.
It's because their offense can't score.
But I can't figure out why the offense can't score.
Wild.
You got Justin Herbert. You got Keenan Allen. You've got Quentin Johnston. You got Mike Williams. You got Austin Eckler. You've got enough weapons there to get points.
Dude, we had the Lions beat the Saints yesterday, 33-28.
It was 21-0 in the first 7 minutes of the game.
That's right.
That's how bad things went for the Saints yesterday. Now, they did claw their way back in it, but it was just too little too late by that point.
Yeah, the Falcons beating the Jets 13-8.
Yeah, the Jets offense still terrible. They did get a safety in this game, which is kind of fun.
Cardinals beat the Steelers 24-10. Kenny Pickett's going to have surgery.
He is. The Jets, by the way, are contemplating bringing in a 4th starting quarterback.
Oh, Lord.
For that team. But yeah, huge win for the Cardinals, only their 3rd win of the year. Even bigger win for the Chicago Bears, who have seemingly wrapped up that number 1 pick that they're getting from the Panthers.
Exactly. Yeah, the Dolphins beating the Commanders 45-15.
God. Terry McLaurin, old scary Terry, left without a catch on the day. He was asked about it after the game. If he was frustrated, not getting any catches in this game. He said he was professional. He didn't take the bait. He said, I ran a lot of cardio today. But also, Tyreek Hill's the MVP of the league.
Oh, yeah.
People want to talk about Dak and Brock Purdy and all these guys, and I get it. They're quarterbacks. It's flashy. Tyreek Hill, 5 catches, 157 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is currently on pace for 2,047 yards, I think, which would put him 83 yards ahead of Calvin Johnson's single-season record.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill has my vote for MVP this year.
Oh, yeah. Broncos lose to the Texans 17-22. You had the Buccaneers beating the Panthers 21-18. The Rams beat the Browns 36-19.
Look at Matt Stafford, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns.
No picks.
I think this was the first time Puka Nakua's had 105 yards in 2 months. And, of course, the Rams have really missed Kyron Williams.
Oh, yeah.
So Kyron Williams getting back out there, 88 yards and a touchdown. Big day for the Rams against what is a really good defense for the Browns.
And we had the Packers beating the Chiefs 27-19 in a score nobody saw coming.
Yeah, Jordan Love, 267 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, there is the big no call that people are talking about.
Yeah, there is that.
And I get why it wasn't called.
Sure.
It was obvious pass interference. Don't get me wrong. But it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and he's not getting that call.
No.
He was the number 3 option for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay last year. He's not the number 1 option for Pat Mahomes either. That's obviously Travis Kelce.
That's right.
So, Marcus Valdez-Scantling is not a big enough star to get that call. But also, it kind of felt like the officials were doing the Packers a solid because they did screw the Packers earlier in that game. Trying to think of the kid's name. Jonathan Owens. Pat Mahomes was running to the sideline. Jonathan Owens bearing down on him. Jonathan Owens knocked the piss out of Pat Mahomes. Right by the boundary. But but they were clearly inbounds.
So it's fair. Legal hit.
Yes.
They called it, did
They called it late hit out of bounds.
Jeez. Of course. Got to protect the homes.
Yeah. So right now the Packers are 6-6. The Chiefs fall to 8-4. The Packers, as it stands, as of this moment, are the 7th seed in the NFC and are in the playoffs.
So wild. All right. Tonight's game, we've got Bengals, Jaguars.
Jaguars by billion.
Yep. So this is kind of like when
if Trevor Lawrence doesn't throw 84%.
Yes, but this is also kind of like the whole Florida State situation, right? Joey Burrow is in there for Cincinnati over these last few games. We're talking different Cincinnati.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like Florida State now.
Well, I'm talking as far as the fall off, right?
Yeah.
Between having that top tier quarterback
Except Florida State's still winning
and
games.
then having another one. And Cincinnati's not going to. Florida
State's still winning games and are subjected to third parties' opinions as to whether or not.
But the NCAA is the only group that does that. You know that?
Whereas the Cincinnati Bengals, whether they win or lose, that's the only thing that matters as far as them advancing with their season.
Yep. No, not the NCAA. It's got to be a popularity contest for the most part. All right. This week, we've got Thursday, we got Patriots, Steelers. Who you got? Lions, Pittsburgh by 6.
I got other things to do. That's what I've got.
I think most of America will have.
To watch that.
Nobody. Oh, Mick Vicious, he's the only one.
Mac Jones probably won't play.
No.
Maybe Bailey Zappi starts. Who knows? They might go with the third starter because they got nothing going on at the quarterback spot. And it'll be Mitch Trubisky for the Steelers starting that game.
No, Lord. All right.
So who the hell cares?
Sunday night, we'll have Eagles, Cowboys, Alliance, Dallas by 3.5 at home.
I'm going to take Dallas as well. I mean, I think the Eagles are going to come back in a big, big way against Dallas this week. I think they might be too emotional about it, though. And it's not like the Eagles dominated the Cowboys the last time they played.
No.
The Cowboys had a lot of opportunities to win it, and they didn't.
Nope.
The Eagles made plays.
Yep, Cowboys didn't.
I think maybe it's a little bit of role reversal this time around.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it'll be a close one. Buccaneers, Falcons, Lions, Atlanta by 2.5 at home.
God, I mean, we're talking mediocrity rearing its head. I would love to see the Buccaneers win this game just to make it this weird situation where someone is going to win that division once again with a losing record.
Yeah, I agree. We have the Lions and the Bears and Lions Detroit by 3 on the road.
Well, we saw the Bears almost pull this off in Detroit a couple weeks ago until they choked in the last few minutes. But I will take the Lions. They are the better team.
Colts versus the Bengals, the Lions Indy by 2.5 on the road. They are 7-5 right now.
They are 7-5. They just find ways to
5-1 on the road.
That's bananas. But yeah, I'll take the Colts as well.
You got Jaguars, Browns, Lions, Jacksonville by 3 on the road.
I forget Deshaun Watson's done for
That's
year.
right.
Yeah, give me Trevor Lawrence.
Panthers, Saints, Lions, New Orleans by 5.5 at home.
I have no reason to believe the Panthers will ever beat anybody again this season, so I'm going to take the Saints.
All right, we've got Texans and the Jets, Lions, Houston by 6.5 on the road.
Yeah, man, I took C.J. Stroud and company last week. They didn't steer me wrong. I'm taking them again, and Nico Collins will get over the 1,000-yard mark.
We got Rams, Ravens, the Lions, Baltimore by 7 at home.
Like, I know the answer's Baltimore.
Yeah.
But, man, something in me just thinks the Rams can do it. The problem for the Rams is they're not consistent.
Exactly.
But if they were, I think the Rams can go into Baltimore and beat them. I'm taking the Rams.
All right, we got Vikings, Raiders, Lions, Minnesota by 3 on the road.
Now, this is where it gets weird because both of these teams are just really average. Like we saw Josh Dobbs come over to the Vikings and win a game for them later that week, and he has been pretty bad ever since.
That's right.
But the Raiders, they went in on Jimmy Garoppolo, and it hasn't worked. Of course, they've had Aiden O'Connell in there at various times this year, and it's not working. The offense isn't working. They got rid of their head coach. I'm going to take the Vikings.
We got Seahawks, 49ers, line San Francisco by 10.5. Cody says, finally I can make comments. Go Cowboys. That's right, Cowboys.
Yeah, go Cowboys. 49ers will absolutely beat the Seahawks.
We have Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, lines KC by 2.5 at home.
Who would have thought at this point in the season Buffalo would be 6-6 and Kansas City 8-4?
Dude, I swear.
And Cincinnati 5-7.
Kind of world we living in.
So, the Denver Broncos have a better record than the Cincinnati Bengals and the LA Chargers at the moment. So Bills Chiefs, I will begrudgingly take the Chiefs.
Yeah, talking about Broncos Chargers, that line is Chargers by 2.5 at home.
I'm going to take Broncos on the road.
And we have a Monday night doubleheader. We have the Titans and the Dolphins. The line is Miami by 13.5 at home.
Yeah, Dolphins by 50.
Then we have the Packers and the Giants. The line is Green Bay by 6.5 on the road.
Yeah, absolutely taking the Packers on the road there.
And there you go. There you go. All right, folks, it's that time.
Also, big news this week. Actually, today.
Today, yeah.
Former Colts linebacker Shaq Leonard is joining the Philadelphia Eagles on a 1-year deal. Of course, we talked about Pickett is having surgery for his high ankle sprain. The Titans have fired their special teams coordinator after the litany of punting miscues yesterday.
It was significant.
And Robert Saleh wants Zach Wilson to play, but it's still to be determined on him. They're possibly looking into getting a fourth quarterback. Derek Carr is in injury protocol, or concussion protocol, rather. But he's also being checked for a rib injury. So something to bear in mind going into this week's games.
And he's also being checked for how to play quarterback. So there's another one. So he's got a lot of things going on right now. A lot of things going on.
And the Cincinnati Bengals have promoted A.J. McCarron from their practice squad to the main roster to bolster some quarterback depth for the rest of the season.
All right, there you go. And on that note, it is time to give out some awards.
Yes, sir.
And we're going to give them. Starting with this one. You got it. It's the Drizzler time. Drizzler Award time. All right. Who is your biggest Drizzler from this weekend? Who's your biggest Drizzler from this weekend? Here we go.
There's several options.
Because there's some good ones.
There are some really good ones.
There's some good ones.
I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit this week.
You'll take the easy one?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
Like, we knew they weren't going to score. But the fact that it still didn't happen.
That's right.
It's one thing for us to talk about it. It's another thing for that to be the truth. Iowa doesn't score. They are only the second team to ever be shut out in a conference championship game.
Jeez.
They lose 26-0. It was woeful. I have never seen a team win 10 games in a season and be in a conference championship game that is so inadequate on the offensive side of the football.
Mine is going to Georgia. Yet again, they failed to beat Bama in the SEC championship game.
I thought you were going Philly.
No, I'm going Georgia because Philly would have been easy. But Georgia, because they've had all the opportunity in the world to beat Alabama in the SEC championship game. Time after time after time, they fail. This time it cost them because the rest of the college football teams that are in these playoffs are all good. So they can't just say, well, I mean, okay, well, Georgia, though, you're still great, so we'll just throw you in there too. Ain't none of that happening right now. And none of that happening right now. Georgia, you know better. You know you had to win. And they looked lethargic coming in, even though they jumped out 7, but they didn't look good the rest of the game. Some of that's on Alabama because their defense, as always, is good. And you can say, well, Alabama only won by 3, and they did. But Georgia, if you are truly the number one team, you've been billed to be the entire season pretty much. You got to beat Bama. And so we heard the arguments coming out, well, we still deserve to be in the playoff because we're still one of the best teams in there. I'm like, you know, maybe you are. And no one's really arguing that you are one of the best teams in football. But you also have the opportunity to actually prove it and win your SEC championship title. You have the opportunity to prove that. So that takes you out of the conversation.
Right.
Whether or not you agree with the Florida State stuff or not, you, sir, are completely out of the conversation because you didn't win your conference championship game. You know, all those other teams have in common? They're conference champions. You're not. And that's the difference. That's the difference. All right, so we have the Drizzlers. Let's go.
Is a tasty burger. You ever had a Big Kahuna burger? Want a bite? They're real tasty.
Real tasty. Real tasty. All right, so we saw that. Who's your Big Kahuna for the week?
There's two that really stand out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take one. I'm taking the University of Texas.
That's right. Let's go.
Specifically,
Welcome,
Quinn
baby.
Ewers, man. I mean, we talked about it ad nauseum earlier, how good the whole team was.
Yeah.
Tavondre Campbell getting the big man touchdown reception from Quinn Ewers. But Ewers having 452 yards, 4 touchdowns. I think both of those are Big 12 championship game records. And then him getting that Big 12 most outstanding player WWE championship belt put on his shoulder from The Undertaker, who is a huge Texas Longhorn fan himself. Like, it was a big moment. Everything felt big. It felt impressive, and obviously it impressed the CFP, as now Texas is the 3 seed in the college football playoffs.
They were the most impressive team this weekend. I mean, from start to finish in all phases of their game. And
more so than the 49ers?
Yeah, way more so.
49ers are playing a much better opponent?
That's right. Agreed. Yeah. It's Texas all the way, baby. Hell, the 49ers. Nobody cares. But Texas looked good. They looked great. They were just on it the whole time. And kudos to those guys. It was great to see Sark. From all the adversity he's had to deal with, he gets this head coaching job. You know, he was at Washington. We talked about this earlier. He goes back to Bama. He gets all of his demons put to bed, gets this head coaching job at Texas. And in 3 years, 3 seasons, has his program turned around.
Especially since that first season, they were 5-7.
Yep.
Then they were,
8-4, 8-5?
8-5 last
year.
year.
I think it was 8-5.
Now 12-1.
That's right.
Going into the college football playoff. Also, one of the best moments from the weekend. I'm going to give a special honorable Big Kahuna mention to the University of Texas fans, because when Brett
this was great.
had to get up there and present that trophy to Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns, that entire stadium booed him out of the building. They chanted SEC. The players are out there booing Yormark and chanting SEC.
Awesome,
now, to Steve Sarkisian's credit, he was over there trying to get everyone to calm down. Like,
Sark was awesome.
Bring it down. Brett Yormark just had to sit up there and eat it because he publicly talked about how anti-Texas he was now.
Yeah, big time.
All season. Put it on Texas Tech to try to ruin Texas's season in the final week of the game of the regular season. His butthole was puckered from kickoff.
Could you imagine?
Just knowing he had to get up there, and it was on his face.
Oh yeah,
on his
because
face
he knew
how much crow he was about to eat.
But he knew that going into the week. He knew that after last weekend. He was like, "Oh crap, this team is so good." And he's thinking, he's probably praying. He probably went to church 4 or 5 times a day, every day during the week.
Sure.
He probably got some rosaries, probably rubbed on the Buddha's belly. He did all kinds of things just to hope that some divine intervention could come in and save him from what he knew he was going to have to do by the end of this football game. It was apparent early on that, Lord, I'm in trouble.
You want to see a man who's never really faced adversity and never known how to deal with it? Look at Brett Yormark when he had to give that speech.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, man, every pro wrestler I've ever met would kill for that level of heat.
Oh, yeah. And you couldn't hear what he was saying, right?
He was up there. He was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
He was legitimately overwhelmed.
Oh, yeah. Because the difference is that as a wrestler, you know to take in the heat. He was just getting publicly scorned, publicly shamed.
Tens of thousands of people.
That was ridiculous. His face was so red. I mean, can we say his face was roll tide roll?
Oh, and I love that when he started his speech, he was talking about, well, let's give credit to the Oklahoma. No, screw them. They lost
That's right.
by a lot.
That's right. There was no credit to be given.
Let's give credit to the Texas Longhorns. Speaking of which, Brett Yormark, I'm going to make him honorable mention.
For the Drizzler?
For the Drizzler.
He should be.
Because not only that, but the Big 12 named Mike Gundy their Coach of the Year.
I saw that. Like how?
Over Steve Sarkisian.
Like how was he Coach of the Year? Again, all the trifling little things that they have done, he earned every boo that was rained down upon him.
Every single one.
From the Raptors, man. It was great. All those boos that came it was like a hurricane of boos that were just rolling over Brett Yormark. He earned that stuff. It was great. His face was so cherry red. He couldn't hardly get the words out. I wish I had to go back and listen again to what he was saying because you couldn't hear it the first time.
No, you could not.
You was like, all right, what was he saying? You had to try to decipher it. It was hilarious. It was great.
And I really love that they have not posted Brett Yormark's speech on any of the Big 12 conference pages. Not on Facebook, not on X, not on Instagram.
None of them.
However, about 450 trillion people have posted footage from inside the stadium of him getting booed out of the place.
Oh, the sound. The sound was literally deafening.
That was a deafening WrestleMania level booing.
Oh, yeah. That was hellacious. The SEC chants raining down in the Big 12 event had to be talking about the most embarrassment you could ever have as a commissioner of a league when they're chanting for the other conference one of your teams are moving to.
84,500 people.
Yeah.
84,523 to be exact. Human beings, plus the players on the field and the coaching staff, simultaneously booing you and loudly chanting out the name of the conference that they are breaking up with you and leaving you for. I talked last week on this show that Texas could have the Alondra Blaze Medusa moment.
Yep.
They did.
That was it. That was it.
They're going to show up in the SEC and drop the title in the trash can.
Dude, look, can you imagine? Like you're having to sit there. There's nowhere to hide.
No, nowhere.
You're on a podium.
And have to be there.
You have to be there.
You don't really have an option about it.
And you're not a big fella to begin with, right? Which really stood out. Around that sea of orange, I see a burnt orange and white. You had this blue suit on. You weren't blending into nothing.
Because if you tried to run, you know who he's going to run into?
Yeah.
The Undertaker.
That's right. On that side.
And you think the Undertaker's going to let him get out of that moment?
Dude.
Hell no.
No. And it was great. I don't care. It was a great moment. It's like, dude, all that trash, all that pettiness, you as a grown-ass man was sitting there perpetrating all season long because your butt hurt. You knew this was coming for 4 years. 3.
3, yeah.
And then this is how y'all choose to do it. You couldn't be classy.
No, he was a coward about the whole thing.
Oh, yeah. Couldn't be classy about it. Don't play UT next year. I would be shocked if they don't. I haven't seen their schedule for next year.
They do, actually.
I haven't seen the schedule for next year yet. I don't know, man.
I had it on my phone at one point. Actually, I can look it up. Let me see here.
So we are going to do a pick'em show, picking these bowl games, folks. For those of you who are just tuning in, after we've talked about the playoff scenarios, we are going to have a pick'em show. We're still trying to figure out how we want to do the pick'em show. But we are going to have a pick'em show for all of this.
Texas is playing both Bulldogs in the SEC next year. They're playing Georgia at DKR Saturday, October 19th. They're playing Mississippi State also at DKR at some point next season.
Oh, they're playing Texas A&M next season?
Oh, yeah.
They are? Okay. At Texas? At A&M, I mean?
A&M didn't want to, but it's going to be like a yearly rivalry game.
Good.
Good. But the condition that
A&M didn't want to.
A&M,
I love that.
They're being pussies about the whole thing. So
of course, they've been crybabies for a while.
Their condition was that the first matchup had to be at Kyle Field.
Yeah.
So
okay,
it will be.
Sure.
On Thanksgiving weekend.
Let's go. Let's go.
I
love it.
It's a brutal schedule for Texas.
Well, here's the thing. It's going to be brutal for everybody in the SEC.
I say that it's a brutal schedule for Texas. It's just the big games are real big.
Well, I think that's the whole thing with the SEC next year is, good Lord, you got Texas and Oklahoma in there.
Well, we talked about Texas. We were talking about this at lunch. We talked about it on the show. You know, Texas could end up playing Michigan in this college football playoff national championship.
Yeah, it's possible.
Right?
That is a possibility.
They have to play Michigan in week 2 next year in Ann Arbor.
And see, that's the thing, too. Texas schedules big games outside. Well, they started with the LSU.
Right.
Right.
So,
then moved to Bama and now Michigan.
And it's a home and home. So they got Michigan on the road next year. They'll have them in 2025 at home.
Exactly.
So on Texas' schedule for next season, they're going to Michigan.
Tough game.
They've got the Georgia Bulldogs at home.
Another tough game.
They're going to A&M.
Yeah.
And then they got the Sooners at the Cotton Bowl.
Another tough game.
And then depending on how good Florida or Kentucky are, they got both of them as well on the schedule.
So they put Texas over another conference in for next season.
Do I?
They're playing. So Texas is really playing the other division in the SEC.
Well, there are no more divisions.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. That's basically what their schedule looks like.
No, because Texas still.
Well,
has
Texas A&M is in the
West.
The West.
They have Arkansas, A&M, and State.
And the state's
known as the West.
That's right.
They've got Vandy, Kentucky, Florida, and Georgia from what is known as the East. They have Oklahoma. They do have some.
Mike, for sure.
They do have some piddly non-conference games though next year. They've got Colorado State. They've got University of Texas San Antonio.
Yep.
And they've got Louisiana Monroe.
So Mike says, get ready for big Bama Texas fans. I tell you what, and vice versa. Texas already went into the Lions Den.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to go there.
They're
not afraid to go there. That's not a fear. But I think, here's the bad part
too. Like, I know Texas always recruits well, but these last 2 years in particular, they've been recruiting lights out.
Yes.
So if people think that Texas is going to just fall off because they're going to the SEC, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
Now, I'm not saying Texas is going to run roughshod. I'm not saying they're going to win the conference every year, but it's going to put it to where it's not just Bama and Georgia.
That's right.
It was really just Bama for a long time. Occasionally LSU would sneak in there.
Yeah.
Now it's been just Georgia the last few years, or Georgia and Bama. Well, now when you throw Texas in there, and now that Oklahoma's going to the SEC, their recruiting is going to increase substantially too.
And what's going to make it hard is going to be for the smaller schools in the SEC.
Oh, absolutely. The Vandys, Kentuckys.
That they're going to find it all tough sledding through there. I mean, it's going to be rough. So you got Vandy, Kentucky, Arkansas, Ole Miss, State. I mean,
and like I'm an Ole Miss alum.
That's right.
And Ole Miss is about to fall off.
Yeah.
Because they just don't recruit at the clip that Texas and Oklahoma do.
No, and then and again, we're still talking about Bama and Georgia and LSU. I mean, you're talking about a hell of a conference where your mega powers are truly going to be up here in these lesser schools. Holy jeez. And not only that, but we're also looking at then with all those, with so many big top schools, you're not going to have that runaway 1, 2, 3 teams up there.
Yeah,
there's going to be some 1 and 2 loss teams. I don't know that you're going to have undefeated teams anymore.
It might be for the best that next year it's the 12-team playoff.
I think it will be for the best because you're going to have that.
I mean, because we're going to also don't forget Oregon, Washington, USC, and UCLA all going to the Big Ten next year too.
Yes, they are, which totally shifts the power dynamic in that conference.
And then you got Colorado, Arizona State, and I think maybe SMU. I'm not positive on that. Are going to the Big 12.
Yeah, so Colorado's about 37 years away from being relevant again. After the prime time goes into,
But we've seen
the PBS.
How good Arizona's been this year.
Arizona's been really good.
Surprisingly good.
They were surprising this year.
But now they're going to go into a better conference.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be tougher on everybody this year.
So
Mike, for real.
Like it's really going to come down to, man, The ACC's kind of played themselves because I don't think they can get out of their contract for like 8 more years. Did it just crash?
I hope not. No.
Okay.
I'm about to be upset, man.
I don't think the ACC can get out of their TV deal for like 8 more seasons. So they can't. What they have to hope is they can talk some prime time schools into moving into their conference.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it's just going to be the SEC Big Ten show.
That's right. Pretty much. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of. I mean, you look at the schools that are involved. Look at the schools in the playoffs right now.
And you got one from, a different conference.
Yeah.
Like 4 of those conferences are represented. The only one not represented, the ACC.
Mm-hmm. And how many of those are going to be shifting conferences next year?
Half of them.
So that's what I'm saying. So
and the half that are shifting to conferences of the other 2.
That's right. Exactly.
So Washington will be going over and joining Michigan in the Big Ten.
So
Texas will be going over and joining Alabama in the SEC.
So you have SEC, the Big Ten, and then some stragglers at the bottom of the playoffs.
Yeah.
Or thrown throughout the playoffs.
I mean,
but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not good. That's where most of your playoff teams will come from.
There'll be a good ACC team that gets in there.
That's right.
There'll be like there'll probably be 3 or 4 SEC teams in there. There'll probably be 3 or 4 Big Ten teams in there. You'll probably get a couple, maybe Big 12 schools, and then your Group of 5 champion.
Exactly. All right, folks, that's been the show for today. We appreciate y'all tuning in. It's been fun. Today. We will be back here Monday, talk about more foosball and what's going on. We'll get the Pick'em show ready, decide how we're going to do that, so stay tuned. We appreciate you guys tuning in. We're Undefined Blitz right here on Undefined Radio. We'll check you out next week.